Frontline with Kortney Kenny, and I'm Tom Parisi, and today we got a great set of guests. Hey, it's another fantastic episode of your favorite podcast. Well, that'll be on later, but now it's the Frontline with Kortney Kenny. I'm Tom Parisi, and today we're joined by a jack of all trades with the North Bay Battalion, the head athletic therapist, among many other things, Andrew Sachkiw. We call him Sach. Sach, man, it's good to have you finally on the pod. I think you're the only person we haven't had on, and it's been far too long coming.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Listen, we got to start things off. I mean, what's the latest you've ever stayed at a rink? I mean, I don't think people understand how late you're usually there.
Well, I mean, if we talk about, with North Bay, it's anywhere from, 1, 2 in the morning and stuff. But I did a U18 tournament with Hockey Canada, and with the travel and stuff, I think we were up for like 40 hours. Like it was crazy. Like we had with the time change and everything, and then you get to the rink and you're setting things up, and it just didn't end. The night didn't end, and I think it was a 40-hour shift, honestly.
We've talked about this with past guests before, but usually, like when we get to a city, the kids drop the stuff off, and then they leave you there at the rink.
Yep. That's our time to shine, right?
Take us through a night. What usually happens on a road trip like that?
Well, yeah, it's you dump the gear, and then you hang it up so that it dries for the next day, depending if it's a 2:00 start, 7:00 start, whatever it might be, and you're getting the room ready so it looks perfect, and making sure everything's ready to go for the boys once they get there. And all they got to do is worry about playing hockey, right? They don't need to worry about, do they got laces in their skates or this and that. So it's but that's me and Macker, we work as a great team, and we love our job, and that's why we do it.
When it comes to, so we talk about the road games a little bit. If you can actually take us through, what is your typical schedule for a road game, and what's your typical schedule for a home game look like?
So for a road game, I guess, if it's an up and back like to Barrie or Sudbury, it's a little bit easier because we have a few trunks and things that we pack in North Bay beforehand. But then once we get to the rink, we're all together. So we're at the rink about 2.5 hours before. The players all bring their own gear in, and then some other guys help bring in the boxes and the things like that. And then it's a matter of getting the jerseys out, getting the socks out. I set up, we got a coffee maker, toaster, all the food, get the snack table ready to go. And just make sure, everything's good to go on our benches. We got to bring our own water bottles now, obviously. So just all that preparation, but really, they have their meeting, if it's a 7:00 game, they have their meeting at 5:30. So generally it takes me about a half hour to get everything going, and then they have their meeting, and then we get right into our activation. So time just goes by, and you get everything done, and then boom, it's puck drop. Now for a home game, we're lucky now that we have a game day skate. So if it's a Thursday 7:00 game, we'll have a game day skate in the morning. So we got laundry to do after that, some treatment, guys are in the tubs, things like that. So some laundry. I usually can sneak out for an hour or two, grab some lunch mid-afternoon, and then back at the rink, 2:33, and then it's showtime. So guys show up about 4:30, and then the preparation starts then. And then obviously the game, and then I'm there till closer, midnight or so. Again, finishing up laundry, all the cleaning, things like that. If anything else, and then obviously if a team's staying over, then we got the double laundry. Luckily, we have a great laundry facility, so it's a little quicker for us. But again, it's still a lot of work. So yeah, they're long days, but I always said the actual time that I probably get the most rest is when I'm watching the game, because that's the time when I'm just standing there watching the game. Hopefully no one's getting injured, and it's just you're just watching the game and getting ready for anything that could happen.
Is it tough to keep a work-life balance with that kind of schedule?
You know what? This is my 11th year in the league, so it's not too bad. My wife is very understanding. She understands the game, and she understands what all the work that goes into it. And luckily, our season is, say late August till hopefully April, May, June, depending on the Mem Cup. And then we get those summer months most likely are more or less off. So, we kind of really take advantage of those June, July, August.
Is there a moment like in the middle of the summer where it's not as hectic for you, where you kind of sit there and be like, I don't know what to do? Like,
not really. Now I have a 20-month-old, so that has changed things. I still, obviously with COVID thing, I've been training during the summer, so I've had about a group of 10 kids or so that I usually train. So during the summer, Monday to Friday, it's still go, but then I do get the Saturday and Sunday off, kind of like we'll say a normal schedule, right? So that's when we take a nice deep breath, go to the cottage, whatever it might be. So yeah, absolutely, get some good downtime and on the weekends and enjoy it.
One of the most impressive things I've always seen from the athletic therapists is after those one and done road trips where you're like there and back, is all the therapy you can MacGyver on the bus. Like I've seen you guys, like there's always ice packs and the way you guys rig them up, slings. I mean, where do you learn all that stuff?
Oh yeah, it's just, you know what, you learn new things. The Hockey Canada, I've taken a lot of things from that. But yeah, I have a cooler that packed that bad boy with ice, and then I got my equipment bag, and it's a full pharmaceutical bag. Obviously just Advil, Tylenol type stuff. But yeah, those bus rides, guys got bumps and bruises, and yeah, we gotta try to keep them healthy and try to, if they need to get some sleep on the bus, and sometimes things to help them with that, whatever it might be.
Do you have any maybe like little unique things that this is a Sach thing, this is what I have to do, like it's my little unique touch? Do you do any of that stuff?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think not really. I guess everything I've just learned through just being in the league now for so long. Saran wrap's huge for putting the ice bags on. You wrap it around with the saran, keeps it nice and tight, even though the guys, as soon as you put it on, they're like, oh, that's way too cold. But that's the whole point, right?
fair enough. I know with some of these it's pretty obvious, but with being a trainer and all that, when there's an injury on the ice and it's more on the serious side, where do you kind of stop and the doctors take over type of thing? Like how much can you do for the player?
Yeah, so as soon as I get out there, I make the assessment, and from the mechanism of injury that pretty soon, like if a guy gets hit into the boards and his head's in there head first and he's laying motionless, you're going out there and you're throwing the fist up, and that's when the paramedics come out and that's when the docs come out. But you're working as a team, right? So I'm the charge person, so I'll take the head. And then it's a matter of, assessing as fast as you can. And then when the doc comes out, then, or the paramedics, then it's all communication, right? So, I tell them what's going on. Is he unconscious? Does he have a neck pain, et cetera, et cetera? And then the doc might take over from there. But we all work as a team, myself, Mac is like a call person, he might call the ambulance. And then you got the paramedics out there and the doc out there, and we just all communicate and we work together to solve the situation.
And no one really know the kid's medical history probably better than you too. So,
exactly.
You'd be
yeah,
right forefront.
Exactly. Yeah. So for sure. So, and again, that's why it's so important that I'm watching every aspect of the game. You can't, if you put your head down to sneeze for a second and you miss something, you might not know exactly what happened. Right. So you really got to be dialed in the whole time. And knowing that mechanism, that really makes it a little bit easier, because okay, well, I just saw this guy, either take a knee somewhere or whatever it might be, and you have a thought going out to him. Okay, I think I know what probably going on here, but once you finally get there, then you go to action.
You don't, like, obviously we don't need to talk about player specifics, but is there like one injury that sticks out in your mind as, oh my goodness, like I can't believe that happened?
What's funny? My very first time, I started in 2007 with the Coochichin Terriers, and it was my very first time as a trainer. And day two, it was like a inter squad game. Guy throws a hip check, and the guy's skate clipped him right across the cheek, and it cut him right there. But luckily, it wasn't an inch higher or an inch lower, because then we got a major issue. It was literally just stitches, but it was a gash that went all the way across his cheek, blood everywhere. And that was my first time with a major bleed. And luckily the kid was, your typical hockey player, just kind of, I'm like, whoa, man, like that's pretty bad. But, probably shouldn't have said that, because that probably might have put him in a shock. But luckily he was just like, oh, no, whatever. It's just needs stitches, right? And luckily that's all he needed. But I've been fortunate. I haven't had a crazy, knock on wood, but we've had a few, obviously, paramedics have had to come out a few times for this and that, but haven't had anything catastrophic, which is nice. And but I mean, anything can happen on any given day, practice day, on the bus. I mean, anything can happen literally at any time.
How do you guys know between athletic therapists? Sometimes I know the opposite team's therapist will jump out and give you a hand or vice versa. How do you know when to play that card?
For sure. And you know what? That's, again, a read and react kind of thing. The universal sign, if I put that fist in the air, everyone's coming out. But other than that, it's just watching the situation. So, like a couple of years ago when Tucker Tynan in Niagara, he had that big cut on his quad there. So, the Niagara guy came out and he was dealing with him. And then the London guy immediately got out there because he knew there was a crazy issue. So you just watch, and if it looks like you need more help, you're out there. You're not making a mistake by going out there, right? And we as support staff, we all are like, we're not on the ice playing each other, right? Like we're all friends. Like I'm friends with all the therapists and all the equipment managers in the league. So we always have, we have our yearly meetings. We have our first aid recertifications that we do together, and we actually get to go on the ice for those. So we practice scenarios with full gear, cutting jerseys, the whole 9 yards. So it's a mini brotherhood, and we're all here to help each other out.
We when we had Mciver on, we asked him the question, what was the road like to get to North Bay, and his was pretty interesting. And I'm sure, knowing a bit of your history, it's probably very interesting as well. So what was your road like to get to North Bay?
So I was fortunate enough to work in Barrie for 6 years. And in Barrie, I was the therapist and equipment manager. Now, I didn't have to sharpen skates, but I had to do everything else, like, meals, hotels, buses, etc., ticket lists, the whole 9 yards. So I got my foot in the door with 6 years of doing all that, which was great because now I know how to sharpen skates. Now I know how to work a sewing machine, things like that. And then what happened was in 2017, Barrie decided just to go another way. James Borelli, he fortunately let me know that he might be getting a job in the A, and he said, I know you're not going back to Barrie. Would you be interested in North Bay? And I said, absolutely. Like, to keep my foot in this game would be amazing. So one thing led to another. I called Stan. He knew our assistant general manager, Dave Drinkle, is now the GM in Saginaw. So they kind of had a reference meeting there. And boom, it was 2 days later, you want the job. And I was like, absolutely, jumped on. I got married, and a week later I was in North Bay. So happy honeymoon in Callander, Ontario.
Hey, you can do worse. Callander's lovely.
Absolutely.
I gotta ask that, and just I know you're with the good guys now, but those two series in the first years that the Battalion were here that they beat Barrie, was there any kind of salt there?
No, you know what? It was so good, man. Like playing in North Bay in those playoff series was amazing. Like we had, Brendan Lemieux, and the fans would get on him all the time, and the atmosphere was just amazing. And that's why I'm hoping for, this year we got such a promising squad, and if we can get, 3,000, 4,000 people in that barn, like it's unbelievable, the momentum. I remember, we would be up and boom, they would score, and then it was just like they got 3 in a row or something like that, and just take off, right? So no, there was I love it. I love going back to Barrie to play now. It's so much fun. My family still lives there. My dad wears a North Bay sweater now. Like it's he's kind of converted a little bit.
I'm definitely not a fan of Brandon Lemieux. I think that's safe. I think that's safe to say. One thing that I always think about with that Barrie team that first year with Aaron Ekblad still on the team, I was volunteering with Kojiko at the time. One of the volunteers for Kojiko was a big Ekblad fan, and he's gonna go first overall and all this stuff. I got to get a picture with him. So he gets a picture with Ekblad before he gets on the bus, and we're talking about a guy who's in his early 30s, and Ekblad looked more of a man than this guy in his 30s.
Oh yeah. I mean, I that was my first year, was Ekblad's first year as a 15-year-old. And, he was a big guy, but he still had the baby fat, right? And then fast forward 3 seasons later, guy's ripped, beard, the whole 9 yards, and now he's a millionaire.
Yeah. Oh, that's
doing
funny.
okay.
Yeah, he's doing a little okay. He's doing a
Great
little
kid though,
better.
unbelievable. I mean, there's a reason. And I was again very fortunate. I came in, I had Aaron Ekblad, Mark Scheifele, Tanner Pearson. Like those guys kind of showed me, because it was my in 2011. That was my first time truly, other than in that junior A dressing room. That was my first time, in a OHL dressing room. So those guys kind of showed me what it takes to be a pro. And now there's a reason they're in the NHL, right? So I always try to preach to our guys, like, it's everything about you. It's not just those 4 hours at the rink. It's everything you do after, and how you take care of your body, and the sleep and your nutrition and your habits, all that good stuff. So I'm very fortunate when I started, and not to mention having Dale Howardchuk as your leader. So I was very fortunate to have those 6 years to really learn the league and learn what it takes. And now I just hope I can help some of our guys and just mentor in terms of that stuff.
When it comes to the off-ice training and whatnot, how involved are you with their fitness level? Like the players, they're always doing it at the gym, they're always working out. How involved are you in that aspect?
Yeah, very involved. We're very fortunate now. We have Peter Anzetti and Caleb Maddie, who are part of our strength and conditioning team. So they are the ones that kind of put the workouts together. And Renzo's from the GTA, but he'll come up once a week and help out. And then Caleb's around all the time. So we all work together. And then, but I mean, I'm the one that's got the the foot on the pulse there the whole time. So it's you get to know the guys over the course of the season, so you do get to see, like, okay, this guy's looking a bit sluggish, maybe we need to tone it back a little bit. And guys that are big minute guys, we need to kind of just make sure that we're not burning them out, right? But I'm up in the gym daily, and obviously in the training room all the time, so very involved with all aspects for sure.
How tough is it? You mentioned, Ekblad coming in as a 15-year-old and still having the baby fat. How tough is it to have these kids buy in, to a training program? I mean, obviously they're going to be somewhat fit because they're a high-level hockey player coming in.
Yeah.
But how hard is it to get them to buy in and be like, you have to do this in order to be here, type of thing?
You know what? It's I mean, harder for some guys. Some guys just have it for sure. I mean, and you can tell that they're going to be pros. But yeah, some guys, it just takes a little bit of learning, and it takes a bit of pounding to them, all the habits that they need to do daily. But then once they start to see the success, I think that's when the clock kind of turns, or you know what I mean? And it's like, oh shoot, like this is what you have to do. Like it's because if I'm not doing it, someone else is, and they're going to take my spot. And I'm not going to get drafted, or I'm not going to get on the second or third line, or whatever it might be. So sometimes it takes a little bit more for guys, but you just got to keep pounding, and hopefully they get it.
Has there ever been a player you were very surprised to see make that pro jump? You thought, hey, I didn't think that was going to happen.
You know what? Like, I mean, Andrew Mangiapane, he's a small guy, right? But he put up 100+ points 2 seasons in a row. So, he gets passed over once after scoring 100+ points, and then goes in the 6th round. But he did it right. I mean, he played in the AHL for a few years and developed, and boom, now look where he is. And that's hard work, determination. Like, he's small, but his legs are like this. They're just huge, right? Like, and that's the hard work that he's putting in, for his craft to get to the next level. And he's done it, right? So it's not that he was a surprise, but I guess it was, he did get passed over, and he was a 6th rounder, and he's 5'9". So things along those natures, right? But it's I mean, Justin Brazeau, he's finally in the American Hockey League again. He's banged it around the East Coast a bit this year to start. And, obviously skating is where he, might have not a challenge, but, that's where the speed of the NHL is crazy, right? It's just such a jump. So, but he's that good. And that's why he's in the AHL right now.
That it's kind of crazy looking back at those Barrie Colts teams and being like, wow, they do have a lot of NHL players in the NHL, or like players in the NHL right now. Like, it's insane.
Oh yeah. I know. I was looking the other day, like because when we went to the finals in 2013, Mark Scheifele had 41 points in 19 games.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, like that's just not fair.
Yeah.
And that was like when he gets drafted 7th overall I remember because the Battalion weren't here yet. And I remember it was like Winnipeg's first ever draft,
That's right.
since coming back. And they take him 7th overall or whatever it was. And everyone's like, oh, he's from the Barrie Colts. I'm like, wow, that's pretty close to home. And then was there like a shock that they sent him back? Because I remember that seemed to be a bit.
Because they buried him on the 4th line, and there was no point of that, right? So
Yeah.
excuse me, he got his 8 or 9 games or whatever, and then and I remember Cheval Dayoff was in our dressing room, and he was saying, he's like, no, you know what, he needs to develop, he's gonna tear it up this year, so let's send him back. And that's what he did. He tore it up, and that's how they developed him, and it was smart, right? And I mean, he was taking 2.5-minute shifts here and there, but I guess you can do that when you're that good.
I suppose when you're okay at it, you can do that.
Yeah. So there was never any complaints from Dale Howard-Chuck or anything that he's out there taking 2.5-minute shifts?
Nah, not really.
Hey, they're winning. He's got 4 points in this period, so we're good.
Yeah.
We're good.
Who's been in your time in the league? Of course, North Bay hasn't had the strongest teams in your time here, but who's been the one player that you've watched in your time on the bench and been like, this kid is something special? Like, who's been the one guy that's really stood out in your mind?
You know what? Like, Ty Nelson right now, really, he's reminds me of Ekblad, to be quite honest. Obviously, there's a size difference, but just his speed and his strength and his love for the game, right? Like, he just loves the game, and it's unbelievable. And that was the same thing with Mark Scheifele. Like, that guy would go home and just watch hockey games. And Dale Howard-Chuck used to say, "Watch NHL, boys. That is free education right there." And like he's impressive, and I'm looking forward to he's obviously going to get drafted this summer, and it's just he's got so much potential. It's very exciting. It's very exciting for North Bay. I hope everyone's loving watching him play.
I think he's just loving being there to begin with.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of that point now where it's like, before it was like, there wasn't really that high end guy. We had Brandon Coe, who's a high end guy, but you were never worried about, oh, we're only going to have him for a couple of years. You were always like, okay, we're going to have these guys for 4 or 5 years. But now it's like, you're looking at Ty Nelson, you're like, I don't want it to end.
Yeah,
and you're
exactly.
thinking it is.
I know exactly. Like, him at 19 years old, holy moly, it's going to be unbelievable.
Yeah. I don't want the red den. When it comes to that, we've talked to a couple of the guys on staff, that were part of that shortened season, of course, where you guys weren't, I can't sugarcoat it, you were the last place team. Of course, things were coming on at the end of the year, but what's the biggest difference from that pre-COVID team to this one that you're working with now? Because it's night and day when you're watching from the stands.
Oh, for sure. Well, I mean, Uli has just got the structure in place so much, and he's just preaching our culture and our habits, and everyone's bought in. And it's just, it started, and we were doing Zoom meetings all throughout the COVID shutdown, right? So, we were, they were talking X's and O's, and, so it's not like when we came into training camp, it wasn't like just, blank slate, right? Like, there was structure already in place, and then it's a matter of, all right, let's keep putting it together. Let's keep pushing forward. And then just the staff that they brought in, we got a mental performance coach, and we've got a nutritionalist and the strength and conditioning guys that help us out, and all that. So all that stuff, it's just a pro atmosphere, right? And that's what you need, because these guys are trying to be professionals, and we preach being a pro all day, every day. And that's the biggest difference, I think.
Staying with the job, because I find it's incredibly fascinating, but how did you get good at giving stitches or administering stitches to people?
So that is out of my scope of practice. So
okay.
the doctors do give the stitches. I think if I was given, like a potato or something, I could probably practice and maybe get good at it. But I don't think a guy wants me to practice on his chin, because that'd be a permanent scar. But yeah, that's out of my scope. But that's why we have a doctor and a dentist at every game. And they're unbelievable. They can stitch a guy up within 10 minutes and get him back out.
I think it's impressive. Anybody, I don't want to say squeamish, but I mean, how impressive is it to get these players? They get a cut in their face, they get a cut somewhere, and they're getting stitched without anesthetic. They're getting just right in the dressing room, no anything. Like, how impressive is that?
There's some guys that are a little soft. I would say Cozy's doesn't like blood. That's for sure. He's not a big stitch guy. I don't know if you guys remember a guy named Anthony Camara. He played for Barrie.
Yeah.
He actually fainted on me like he saw blood and I thought he was joking because I was like, what's going on? But no, he fainted. And he was literally our toughest guy in the team. And he just fainted from seeing blood. So, I mean, it affects everyone differently, right?
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. That's really good. We're gonna have to give Cozy a little bit of a jab next time he's on. Then that's.
I mean,
funny.
hey, you know what? He's the last guy. I started here in 2017. Since Rosie's gone now, he's the only guy left from my first year, so I had to give him a little jab.
Fair enough.
Well, he came on here back in September throwing fists. So I mean, by all means, next time he's on, we're gonna have to throw him under the bus for that one. Speaking of when a player like that, when Rosie leaves the team, how bittersweet is that for you? Like where you've been with this guy the whole way. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's you develop a great relationship with them, right? So we're friends now. I wish him good luck, and he thanked me for everything, and it was a pleasure working with him. So I'll wish him good luck, and follow him now and see where he ends up. And I'm not sure if he's hopefully going to go the school route, I would imagine. And, that's the great thing about the OHL. These school packages are unbelievable, so they can just really pick and choose where they want to go. And he can go have a great career at school and maybe get out to Europe. There's so many options for him. So he's a great kid, and I wish nothing the best for him.
So when we had Macker on, Tom opened up the podcast with this heater of a question. And judging by your reaction, I think you know what the question is that's coming. So I'll just let you answer it.
So you know what? Like in terms of high maintenance, we have a really good group. So there are guys that are on my table more than often, but it's not in a high maintenance fashion. So I mean, Dom's name's going to come up.
I mean, he really had to nitpick though. He had to nitpick a lot to figure out it was Dom.
But he's just taking care of his body. So and they're very respectful. So it's not a high maintenance. It's just he wants to take care of his body the best he can, and he wants to be performing at his optimal level. So he's on my table. I stretch him out before every game, give him whatever he needs. And but Mitch Russell's on my table a lot, but he's an old fella, so got to keep him loose and limber, right? So he's another one. But you know what? It's not there's none guys that I really would say that are high maintenance. They're just guys taking care of their body.
Is it just like just a waiting, people get in line, wait for you to work on them and then they go?
Sometimes, yeah.
Fair enough.
I'm shocked Co wasn't named in there just because Lucan came in and called him grandpa or whatever in his first.
Yeah, but no, you know what, Cozy, I don't see Cozy in there too much. He's just he goes about his job and does his thing. So let's knock on wood. I haven't had to deal with him too much.
Hey, whatever he's doing is working this year. So let's just keep it at that. So.
Exactly.
Actually, you mentioned Lucan. I'm wondering, Sach, with the import kids, you ever had trouble talking to them when they're hurt and trying to figure out what's going on?
You know what, Lukey at the start of the year a little bit, but he has gotten so much better at English. It's actually unbelievable. He is hilarious. Like we're so fortunate. Our import guys are just beautiful, man. Like I'm telling you, Petrov is our team interpreter, but and then we got Potaluch as well, and then now we got Tarasevich and we got Tedarenko. Like it's kind of getting crazy. It's like we have to say, all right, guys, calm down on the Russian on the bus and stuff like that. Like, let's speak English here. But so yeah, it was sometimes at the start of the year with Lukey, it was a little bit, get the Google Translate out. But now he's awesome. He's gotten so much better at English.
I heard Chris Dawson was telling me one day that Tatarenko and Mike Levin would only speak Russian for a little bit in the Voodoo's dressing room, and they had to give them trouble. They had to tell them to stop.
Absolutely. Yeah. We don't know what they're saying.
They could be ripping into all their teammates for all they know. Speaking of the Voodoos, I had mentioned them previously, just talking to JJ before the podcast. I said, we got Sach on the podcast. You got any good stories? He says, I have a few and I can't share many of them with the podcast, but he said, ask Sach if he knows where the lobby bar is.
Yeah, that was when we were playing Niagara in the playoffs there, and yeah, we were lobby bar having a few drinks. That's it.
He told me So for reference, Tom, he told me that he was upstairs watching the Hunger Games, and Sach came in, had a few pops, came in to use the washroom, and then came down. He says, "Oh, I'm going back down to the lobby bar. It's in the lobby," and then left.
Yep, that's where it would be.
That's it.
That's all there is to it.
That's it.
That's funny. I love it. Well, Sach, we got to thank you for coming on the podcast. I'm sure we'll have you on hopefully a few more times, talking about some high maintenance players and everything like that. So we really appreciate you coming on the podcast today.
No problem. My pleasure, guys. Great speaking with you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir. All right, in his first tour of duty with the Frontline Podcasts, Andrew Sachkiw, we call him Sach. He's your head athletic therapist for the North Bay Battalion. He's an awesome guy, works really hard. And in the 1 year we got to work together, he did a lot of really impressive stuff with the players on the bus, like I mentioned earlier in the episode. The way he can McIver stuff together, second to none. So glad we got a bit of a background on that.
And he knows where the lobby bar is, so that's always
that
good.
he does. That he does in the lobby.
It is.
All right.
Where do you think it would be? Not the lobby.
We're going to get into it really in depth with GM Adam Dennis in the not too distant future, but we're going to talk about the trades. We got to talk about the trades. So
Absolutely.
We'll talk about the first one that went down. So from Windsor, Grayson Ladd, Kyle Mcdonald, they've already played a game for the Battalion. Gone to North Bay for Josh Curry, Owen Sound's second round pick in 2022, so this year. Sue Greyhound's third round pick next year, and a conditional fourth rounder from the Generals in 2023 as well. My guess is the condition is if Kyle Mcdonald stays an extra year, maybe that turns into an actual fourth rounder. So that's the big one that went down. Kortney, quick, your thoughts. And Josh Curry was in there as well.
Yeah, first off, Josh made one appearance on the podcast, so thank you, Josh, for making that tour of duty. We appreciate you coming on. And he was a different player this year than he was in his rookie season. I mean, your rookie season, you don't expect much from a lot of guys, and he was down on the fourth line for a lot of it. But this year, he was all over the lineup. He was a veteran presence early. He just kind of petered out. He just his production kind of stalled, and the team was desperate for secondary scoring, and that was the player that was going to make the deal happen. And I got to be honest, the Battalion have a cupboard full, like overflowing of draft picks from the few years that they were not so great. You have the draft pick capital, use it. So that's what they did. And that trade, I think is going to be a good one. Kyle Mcdonald's already picked up a goal in his 2 games against Barrie. He looked a little bit out of sorts on Thursday in his Battalion debut, but I mean, that's to be expected. These guys don't know the systems that they're playing. If he comes in and plays great, that's house money, but I mean, right away, you're going to expect him to look a little out of sorts. And Grayson Ladd is a veteran presence on the blue line. He's been through a lot of things in this league, playing with some great teams. And of course, being an overager, he's going to bring some of that leadership to this team. And I've only ever heard good things about Ladd through my travels in this league. So I think it's a solid piece of housekeeping by Adam Dennis on that trade. It's to really, I mean, Josh Curry is on a personal front, Josh Curry is going to be missed. On a player front, you're getting in a guy who's got put a lot of points on the board and a veteran defenseman I don't think it's that steep of a price personally. So I think it's a good move.
I thought the price was fair, to be honest with you.
Yep.
Compared to what other people were giving up for maybe similar players and maybe even lesser players. I think they made out very well on this one. Yep. And I've seen Grayson Ladd play in person a handful of times. He's been on some deep runs when he was with Kitchener, been on some playoff runs with Windsor too. So you know what? You're getting someone who understands the blue line. Before we get to the next trade, with Grayson Ladd coming into the lineup, Simon Rose. We talked about it briefly with Sach early in the episode. He was released from his contract. He was a rookie in my second year and final year with the team, and he used to sit right behind me in the bus. And he was the person I gauged like all my OHL rookie experiences from. Like, he was up and down the lineup, in and out of the lineup. He'd go in as a forward, a defenseman. One time he spent an entire game with me in Oshawa up in the booth, and that never happens. I don't know why he didn't sit in the stands. He just felt like coming up to the booth one day. So that was a lot of fun.
To hang out with you.
But He was one of the most candid players. You could ask him anything. Solid human, and wish him nothing but the best.
Absolutely.
And if he goes the school route, hey, good for you. There's nothing wrong with that in the slightest. You can always get back to the pros in short order. In fact, we're going to talk about a player who did that this week in just a little bit. So, yeah, he's going to be missed. He's a solid human.
And you know what? We've had Rosie on twice. He was great both times we had him on. I echo what Tom says. He's going to be missed. He was a solid contributor to the battalion. I remember when they drafted him in the second round, the vibe was they were ecstatic to get him. They were very excited that he fell to them. And then finding out through the podcast that he was born in North Bay, like how cool is that, right? So, congrats, Rosie, on your time with North Bay. Just kind of unfortunate how it kind of ended. Hopefully, maybe even this year he can catch on with a team in the Q or the WHL or something as well. You never know.
Very possible.
Yeah, former Voodoo and Riley Pitt was with the Oshawa Generals. He's now with the Titans in the Q. So, things like that happen. And hopefully he can catch on somewhere. And as Sach said, if he doesn't catch on somewhere, hopefully he goes the school route. And we see him extend his career like a couple of the players that Tom teased already.
Yeah, we'll talk about them in just a bit. We got another trade. It was Nikita Tarasevich from the Sarnia Sting out to North Bay for an 8th round pick in this year's draft. He's not got the points yet, but hey, there's some upside to him.
Yeah, and if you read the article on battalionhockey.com about the 3 deals, Adam seems very high on Tarasevich. And as we've seen in the past, when Adam's pretty high on a player, tends to work out pretty okay.
That it does.
So watching him Thursday against the Mississauga Steelheads when we still had battalion hockey, he was a jitterbug. He was all over the ice. He's not the biggest, but he's got some speed. He does have a shot on him. So it'll be interesting to see where he gets his opportunities up and down the lineup. He started on the second line due to injuries. He played on the third line the second game in Barrie. So already moving down a spot, but I don't think they got him to necessarily obviously be that second line guy, because if you have a healthy lineup, Mitch Russell's probably on that second line and Kyle Jackson's back on the top line. So there's no real room for Tarasevich on that second line, but he looked good in his time that I saw him in person. And I don't know if that was just because I was excited that I still got to see battalion hockey or what, but he looked pretty good in that move. So in that game, so an 8th rounder to give up to Sarnia is what it is. And
Plus,
he's gonna be gravy.
A deep playoff run needs some depth.
Exactly.
And you never know. You look at old playoff runs. One guy that stands out to me, this is where you put in the off-topic sounder. Remember in 2006 when the Oilers went to the playoffs?
Oh yeah,
that deep run. Fernando Pisani.
Yep.
Remember out of nowhere he scored 14 goals in the playoffs.
Yep. Oh,
so,
he was Conn Smythe Trophy winner regardless of who won that cup, and he didn't get it. So
well, Cam Ward had something to say about that.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if the Oilers have won, he's obviously the Conn Smythe guy. But I mean, we've seen losing players win the Conn Smythe before, J.S. Shiger, right? So
yep.
He definitely was a strong candidate, but yeah, it's Fernando Pisani, man. And you know who also had a good run for those Oilers? No, we're totally going off topic. Sergei Samsonov. That was like the last time he was relevant
for them.
Yeah, and that was like the last time he was relevant in the NHL. Was that playoff run? He was
battalion. Rafi Torres did great.
Yeah, but I mean, Samsonov was dynamite from that trade.
Yeah,
to like the end of the playoff run.
It's exactly what they needed.
Yeah,
it's the last time Kevin Lowe did anything okay for the Oilers.
Hey, he just got his jersey retired.
Well, he was a good player, great defenseman.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. The other player too that kind of broke, as evidence, it broke their back when he got injured, was Dwayne Rollison. Found another gear.
That was they'd have won if they'd have kept Rolly in there. Anyway, back on topic.
I could talk about that. I'm sorry, I'm not an Oilers fan, but I could talk about that run all day long.
It's true. So we're teasing some old players. We'll dive deep into the trades when we have Adam Dennis on for his 800th tour of duty in the not too distant future. So stay tuned.
He needs a T-shirt. He needs a T-shirt.
I think he should. So I was talking to you about former battalion players, Matt Santos. We had him. He was he was a guest of ours in the not too distant past. When he was with us, it was the COVID season. Like his
Yep.
season got canceled. He was at Ryerson University. Well, it turns out this year he signed in the ECHL again to play with the Maine Mariners. But the thing about this year is really kind of good for some of these players is a lot of them are getting sent up to the AHL. Everybody's almost getting bumped up a mark because the taxi squads, COVID protocol, you name it. So
Yep.
he has gotten 2 games in with the Springfield Thunderbirds, and he's got an assist and 4 penalty minutes in 2 games. So he's moving on up.
Yeah, and that's great to see him do that because we talked to him when he was on, and he said his hopes was to go back pro. He just wanted to get his schooling in while he could. And he got that 1 year in with the Toledo Walleye before, but good to see him. It's working out for him so far. And I know it's different that you can be loaned out. I mean, Evan Cormier, another former Battalion, briefly is now playing with the Manitoba Moose, but he was with the Newfoundland Growlers, who are obviously the Leafs affiliate. I believe the Maine Mariners, because Brazo was playing there, is the Bruins.
Boston.
Yeah. So, and Seattle's not their AHL team, but still, like, take the opportunities wherever you can get it. Have
fun. They're young.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, at the same time, why show loyalty when other teams might not? So by all means, if you're gonna move your career along, do it. And it's good to see Santos doing that.
100%. Now, a second player in the same boat. He was the captain of your North Bay Battalion for 1 season. Went off to do the school route. Again, if you're a player and you're thinking, who should I go to school? Hey, this could be you. Marcus Mciver went to the University of New Brunswick, then played in the ECHL for the last 2 seasons. Well, now he's got a call up to the Chicago Wolves, one of the most storied franchises in AHL history. He's got a game in with them, and that's awesome because some guys take a little bit longer to get their footing. And hey, good on him for going to get that education at the same time. But I mean, he had 15 points. He's not an offensive guy. 15 points in 27 games with Fort Wayne in the ECHL and jumping up to the AHL. So congratulations to Marcus.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, he was never an offensive darling here with North Bay either, but the guy could shut you down. Like, I remember in that, we've talked about it many times, that game against the Oshawa Generals, game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Jamie Lewis goes and scores that goal. I don't think Marcus Mciver saw the bench for the last 5 minutes of that game. He was on the ice like the entire time because that's how good he was at shutting you down. And he did a great job because he shut Oshawa down, and that was the end of their playoff run that year. And hey, you're going on to the OHL finals. But I think he won in a university title.
He did, I believe.
East, and then he won the ECHL title last year as well with Fort Wayne. So
guy knows how to win.
Exactly, right? So good for him, and it's good to see these guys move on up. I mean, our last episode was kind of the theme was moving on up. We talked to Cam Deneen, who toiled away in the AHL for a while, and now he's up in the NHL. So you're starting to see the fruits of the North Bay Battalion kind of ripen and move on up, and it's an exciting time because, for a couple of years, we didn't really have any players that were going anywhere. I think there was a point where there was nobody on the roster that was an NHL related player. And now there's a bunch that are going to be drafted from this team, and there's a bunch that have moved on from previous teams. So it's good to see North Bay kind of put on the map a little bit.
Or even a guy, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, Brady Lyle. I mean, former Battalion, Owen Sound Attack, and he's with the Providence Bruins.
Yep.
I mean, that's 2 seasons now he's been with Providence.
And they love him. They love him in Boston. I
mean, fantastic. And maybe he's reunited with Braz too. So I'm hoping that works out really well.
Yeah, for sure. And even you look at, I remember a few years ago when, pre-COVID, when Santos came here with Ryerson, it was him. Garrett Forrest was a pick. He was the goalie of the Rams. He was a pick of the Battalion, but he only played with the Voodoos before they sent him to Flint for Brent Moran. And also Steve Harland was on the Rams team, and I think Zach Shankar was as well. So Battalion players are just littering OUA, and they're also starting to populate the AHL and ECHL, and hopefully soon to be the NHL.
Well, yeah, I'm even thinking off the top of my head, Brett Mckenzie.
Yep.
Former Battalion, Owen Sound Attack. He's got in a baker's dozen games with the Grand Rapids Griffins this year.
Yeah.
1 goal, 4 assists, at 5 points in 13 games. And he was with Toledo earlier this season, where he had 10 points in 10 games. So
Good
guys
for
are
him.
starting to make some waves.
Yeah, good for him. And I mean, you got to think he must have reached out to Uli at some point to talk about the Griffins a little bit, because he would have been here when Uli was assistant coach, right? So
That he would have been.
yeah, Brett Mckenzie, first round draft pick of the North Bay Battalion, the first draft pick. Much like Mark Scheifele was the first pick of the Winnipeg Jets, not the Atlanta. I don't even think they had a jersey when Scheifele was drafted.
It was just some black generic jersey. I didn't mean to say fun pick. I meant to say fun fact earlier. In the COVID season, he played 12 games in Poland.
Wow.
Yeah.
Impressive. Well, you've got your little device in front of you. How's Luke Moncada doing overseas, by the way, while we're thinking about it?
We're gonna load that
up. Just because I'm curious, because he was supposed to go the school route too, and then we had him on the podcast. He's talking about going the school route, and then pulls the wool over our eyes, and he's going to play pro. And we're just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, he's playing in Austria with the Vienna Capitals. 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 games, 4 points in 31 games. And they're probably one of the better teams in that Austrian. Well, it's the ICHL. It's usually comprised of a few different countries. I believe. I feel like there's an Italian team in that league as well.
What a league name!
I mean, I'm just looking at some names real quick. Former first-round draft pick James Shepard is on that team.
Wow.
There's a lot of interesting guys out there, and I'm sure he's one of the younger guys on the team. You don't usually get the kind of minutes. And if you remember Luke's game, he's not there to score. Like, if he does, great, but he's so good defensively.
Yeah.
So I got to figure that's what he's doing there.
Oh, absolutely. And I remember too, it even took him a little while to get going in the O. I mean, his last year here was phenomenal. I believe 32 goals or somewhere near around there. Absolutely phenomenal. But yeah, Luke was a really good trade pickup. And that's an example of maybe a Tarasevich. You know, he's drafted by another team, has some upside that another team sees. He's not getting the opportunities. Matt Struthers, same way. He wasn't getting the opportunities in Owen Sound. Immediately comes to North Bay. He was playing on like the 3rd or 4th line in Owen Sound. He put on the top line here and just takes off, right? So
Luke Burkhart did the same thing back in the day.
Burkhart, yeah. Luke Burkhart was the Luke Moncada trade. So what a great trade for the Battalion, right?
That worked out super well. For context, those Vienna Capitals, 16 wins, 13 losses this season. But yeah, in that league, they've got a Czech team, 2 Italian teams, a bunch of Austrian teams, a Slovenian team, Hungarian team, and Slovakian in the ICHL.
Wow.
And 2 of the teams are called the Capitals.
Well, I mean, on one hand, Luke's seeing the world. Good for him.
Hey, when you're young and you can do that, do it.
Yeah.
Honest to goodness. Go for it. Make some money. Go play professional hockey. Be a man of the world. Enjoy yourself.
Absolutely. Another player is playing pro overseas. I don't know if he still is this year. Is Kyle Wood. We've had him on. Jake Smith as well, playing overseas. I was looking at our Spotify analytics actually at the end of the year, and it was like, you have 1 stream in Italy. And I didn't say anything about it, but I posted it to Instagram, be like, oh, thanks to everyone who's, listened around the world. And Jake Smith commented with the little hands up emoji, being like, I'm the one from Italy.
So Kyle Wood, while we're on this train, let's keep it going.
Yeah.
He's in the Czech League, Czechia. And guess whose team he's playing for?
Is it Jaromir Jagrs? No.
Yeah. With Thomas Plekanec. He's 6th in.
What's that, sir? You cut out something fierce.
Oh, he's 3 points behind Jagr for in team scoring. Jagr's 3rd. He's 6th.
No.
Yeah, Jagr's got 19. Kyle Wood's got 13.
How many games played?
Jagr 29 with 19 points. And Wood 34 games, 13 points.
Man, Jagr can still play, eh? Like,
well, didn't he say he had to keep playing just because, like, for ticket reasons?
I think so, yeah.
Thomas Plekanec is leading the team in scoring. He's got 34 points in 36 games. Former Maple
Man.
Leaf, Thomas Buchanan's.
Maple Leaf legend. I was just gonna say.
Uh,
That was such a strange trade because I remember being a Leafs fan being super
Yeah.
conflicted about it. I was like, yeah, we got Plekanec. Yay. Like I hate him. Like, that'd be
I
like
don't
if
know how to feel.
that'd be like if the Leafs went out and like traded for Brad Marchand. I'd be like,
Yeah.
yay, but I don't like this guy. You know, like for different reasons. Plekanec, I just didn't like him because he was a good player. I don't like Marchand because he's a good player and he's a rat. So
That too.
who was the guy that we were talking about with Sach? Brandon Lemieux? Yeah, same thing. So yeah, wow, that's good for Kyle Wood. That's awesome. Did you see Yager's video message to Jakub Voracek for his 100,000th game?
No.
He's like, hey Jake, congrats on your 1,000th game. Only 700 to go to tie me.
You played to the 50. Enjoy.
Yeah.
Good God.
Yeah. It's crazy to think how good of a player he still is, though. Like, I mean,
It's actually quite frightening
yeah.
how good he is.
What are you going to be doing in your mid to late 40s? Not playing professional hockey, I can tell you that
Hey, I'm
much.
just hoping I'm alive.
Yeah. Well, before this gets too depressing.
Yes, we'll wrap it up in a nice bow, and we will chalk it up to some fun times the next round. And yeah, it looks like we're going to talk with GM Adam Dennis in our next go round. Go ahead, sir.
I was just going to mention we also Mason Primo playing in the ECHL and AHL as well.
Ah,
So,
yes.
with the in the Vegas Golden Knights system. So we'd be remiss if we didn't mention Mason Primo. But yes, to wrap it up in a nice bow.
Italian are all over the place.
Exactly. And yeah, I mean, Adam Dennis. We haven't had him on for a while, and we don't normally say that. So
It's actually been a while. And just for context, Jake Smith is 14-5 this season in Italy. He's on the Italian national team for the Olympic qualifiers.
awesome. Good for him.
So hopefully that goes well for him.
Yeah,
I'm
you
hoping
know,
the Italians. I mean, sorry. I hope. I actually I don't remember. Do the Italians make the Olympics this time around?
I don't know.
I think they. Man, before we go, this needs to be stall for time. Kortney, tell a joke.
Okay, well, you know, I was just gonna say, how about that airline food? No, I was just thinking like to myself, I know he has the like obviously the ancestry in there, but I was like, oh yes, my favorite Italians, the Parisis, the Rovitas, and the Smiths.
Oh, you're too kind.
I just love that Smith. It just sticks out like a sore thumb. Like that's gonna be probably the easiest name to read.
Italy didn't qualify for the Olympics this time around. Germany, China, Switzerland, Denmark, Slovakia, and Latvia
Yeah,
were the qualifiers.
and I think China's only there because they're the host
Yeah,
team.
that might be rough. Even if we don't have NHL players there, that
Yeah.
might be rough.
Well, and that was the thing. I remember when the NHL was still going, and they were like, "Yeah, China's in a division with like Canada," and I was like, "Oh, I am so sorry." Like,
Oh no.
watch that be like. Remember Latvia in the 2014 Olympics or whatever, where they just like they didn't beat Canada, but like the game went to overtime or
It was
whatever.
1-0 game. Shea
Yeah,
Weber
or-
scored in the third period.
Yeah, watch that be against like that would have been how it would have been against China, guaranteed. You go into there and be like, "Oh, Canada's gonna blow them out of the water," and it's like 1-0.
I'm pretty sure goaltender Christers Gudlevskis had like 50 some odd saves and lost 17 pounds in that game.
He was a cult hero for sure in
And then
Latvia.
he kind of disappeared, sadly.
Yeah, he was a draft pick of the Lightning, I believe. So
Played for
I mean,
the Islanders organization a little while.
yeah, but I mean, to be fair, when you know you're up against Vasilevsky for
Kind of
competition,
screwed.
yeah,
Anyhow.
yeah.
This is the Frontline Podcast, produced by our intrepid producer, Ben Sargent. He makes it sound fantastic. If you're watching this on your TV, you can watch the full episodes on YouTube, or you can listen to them all on Spotify, Apple Music, Google Podcast. Follow us on social media, all of them, by the way, all of them. Follow the Battalion on social media. We pop up there too. And just follow them for all your latest news and stuff, and who might be or who has been on the podcast before. We got tons of these videos. Go check them out and see if you like them. All right. Thank you to Andrew Sachkiw for being on his first tour of duty as well with the Frontline, and he's Kortney Kenny. I'm Tom Parisi. I point that way because that's where Kortney is on my screen. But watch him pointing to nothing in the actual video. But this was fun. We're going to do it again next week or sometime. Haven't decided.